We're deep. That's deep.
Well, hello, everybody. How are you all doing today? Having a good conference last day? We're so excited to have you. I'm Dr. Avanti Kumar-Singh, and I am so incredibly happy to be here with you all today. Thank you for joining us for what I know will be a very, very honest, inspiring, and deeply human conversation about how mindfulness truly is medicine. I'd like to introduce each of our wonderful panelists really quickly, each of whom has made mindfulness not only a personal practice of theirs, but a way of serving others in the world. Mary Fisher is an author, artist, and activist, best known for her 1992 speech, A Whisper of AIDS. Her most recent book, Uneasy Silence, explores how aging, silence, and mindful presence shape courage, dignity, and truth. David Kessler is one of the world's foremost experts on grief and the author of Finding Meaning, where he introduces the 6th stage of grief. Through his platform, grief.com, and the Tender Hearts online community, he helps people use mindfulness to move through loss. Hala Khouri is a somatic therapist and educator whose work bridges mindfulness, trauma healing, and social justice. She created the collective resilience model used in schools, organizations, and communities to build more equitable, embodied systems of care. And Big Sean is a Grammy-nominated, multiple platinum recording artist, author, and mental health advocate. His newest book, Go Higher, outlines the 5 spiritual practices, including mindfulness, that have helped him stay grounded, focused, and whole in the midst of success and pressure. Love
This
it.
is the book. Right.
So my first question, oh yes, they all have books. They're beautiful books, and they're all available in the bookstores. So please make sure that you buy them, okay? So each of you has used mindfulness in a very personal way. And you've also taken it out into the world through your art, your work, your advocacy. I'd like to ask each of you, why do you think mindfulness is so incredibly important right now in this moment that we're living in? I'll start with you, Mary.
Oh. Because mindfulness, for me, it's really about the other. It's about being there for the other. It's about listening. It's about being a part of a community, which is so important. And so for me, it's very much about our moral character and how we feel about right and wrong. And these are the things that I work with to try and help others that don't have a voice.
Right. So it's that connection to others and community and how we are in community.
Yes, exactly.
I love that. David, what would you say?
We always think about grief, obviously, as the death of a loved one. But I also say it is a change we didn't want. And whenever we've had a change we didn't want, whether it's a death, a relationship ending, a job loss, company changes, the world changes, all those things, there's a gravitational pull to the past. And mindfulness brings us here to the moment. And really, the healing, and I always say people worry about healing and grief. Healing doesn't mean forgetting.
Right.
It means taking what was lost with you and holding it a way that supports you, that it helps us come into the now where the healing can occur.
Yeah, I love that. Hala, what would you say? Why do we need mindfulness right now where we are?
I feel like I want to weave together what you both said, that as a trauma therapist, I understand that unresolved trauma traps us in the past. And we're not able to actually be present with what is, because what is might feel like what was. And so mindfulness is that capacity to be present with what is. And I think that when we really do that, we realize that there is no other, right? Which is what I feel like you were articulating, that we are deeply connected and interdependent. And when we know that in our bodies, it changes everything.
Right.
And so that's why it's so revolutionary.
Yeah.
True. Well said. Truly. Yeah. And for me, I feel like each person touched on you know, what mindfulness is. And to me, it's just being aware, being present. I feel like there's so much to experience in the world. It's mindfulness, you know, not mind emptiness. So it's like to be full of life, to be present, to be aware. It's one of the things I tell my son when he's playing. It's like, be mindful, be careful. You know what careful is? Like full of care. You know, be mindful, be aware of what's around you. So I think that it, like you said, it is a way of healing yourself. It is a way of dealing with certain things to end in your evolution as a person that you don't want to pass on. You know, I realize that when you do have a child, you pass on everything. You pass on what you may call the good or the bad. I realize there's really no such thing. It's kind of just all perspective based, you know, so it's like, it's one of those things that some of your biggest blessings come in disguise.
Right.
You know, you may not recognize them. So I kind of don't look at it like I used to of like good or bad. I just kind of look at, all right, I'm done with this pattern. I don't need to pass this on. You know, whether it's health, whether it's like cleaning your colon and your liver and your kidneys, whether it's dealing with trauma. You know, my father grew up in Monroe, Louisiana, and he used to get beat up for being black on the wrong side of the tracks. You know, and he used to have a stuttering problem. And I don't know what I inherited from that, but when I did some therapy, it forced him to go to therapy, and he was just like, yo, he goes, I love learning from my son, he says, you know. And my point being is that it's all, you know, our DNA is like a computer, so much information in it, that when you're mindful, it's kind of like the way of accessing it all. You know, when you're mindful, you know, one of my favorite examples is when I'm going through a tough time in life, I wish I could have known what my grandma would have said or what or the advice my grandfather would have gave me. They were both World War II veterans, and my grandma was one of the first female black captains. She was like one of those women that was in the 6888, that movie Tyler Perry made. And I'm like, man, I wonder what my grandma would say now. But it's like, if you just really connect with yourself and are mindful enough, you can gauge the messaging of what's there because the information is already there.
Yeah.
You know?
What I'm hearing from all of you is that it's about connection. That when you are mindful, you're either connected to other people, connected to your lineage, right? There's an awareness that comes with mindfulness, right? And you're talking about connection from different points, though, right? Through grief, through pain, yeah?
And what's interesting about that is studies are showing us more and more that we heal in connection with others. You know, the worst thing we can do to someone in the world in wars is kill them, obviously. The second worst thing is isolation. And in grief and in trauma, we often decide to isolate because the world doesn't see it as we do. And so then it becomes hard to find those connections and the repair work that's needed. So we so need community.
Right. And I also think in the world that we live in right now, it is very easy to feel overwhelmed by feelings of grief, anger, whatever it is that you're feeling, and then to isolate in that way. And so I'm also hearing that connection is really important to move through those feelings.
Yeah, I think a comparison too is one of the biggest, like, obviously, thieves of joy in a sense, but I think that the connection and community is so important, but also to realize your individuality, you know, that your journey is yours, and we're all doing our best to figure it out. We're all going through something one way or another. We're all going through these ups and downs, and to embrace each other in that sense, you know, no matter what we're going through in our life, you never know what someone's going through, and they may come at you, quote unquote, wrong, but you got to remember that you don't know what's going on with them. And that's always something to remember as well amongst the community, just to add on to what you were saying.
So you're saying that mindfulness really is a way to also check in with your reaction to someone and maybe understanding the humanity in somebody else even more.
Yeah, because it's like, I don't got time to be pissed off over someone else, you know?
Right.
I realized that I used to kind of have road rage, not bad, like someone cuts me off. I'm like, oh, you know, but then I'm like, I'm the one in the car that's pissed off right now. Like, what is the point of that? Like, so
Right.
I kind of just like am real cool now. If something happens, I just am like, they must really need to get somewhere faster than me, you know. So.
Exactly. You were
Yeah,
going to say
well,
something.
I just think also that when you think about community, when you think about people having troubles and people having grief and people having trauma and going through something, is what I feel is so important is that we need to know. We need to actually know our history so that we can make decisions based on that. I'm not saying that we have to live it again, but we can make decisions on that. We can ask our grandma from wherever.
Right.
But it helps us make decisions. And then when we're working with other people or even talking to other people, it's just to let them know that you're here and that you're listening to them. Listening is like such a big thing, and we don't share that enough with each other. And I'm convinced that spending that moment, you talk about mindful in the moment. I think that moment when you can listen to somebody and you can understand where they've been and where they've come from. And we've all had stuff, right? I mean, we've all had stuff, believe me. But this group is like amazing.
I know.
I'm amazed.
I'm amazed.
Well, and to add to your point, I think mindfulness also, when she talks about listening, is not fixing. I mean, we're all like, you come to me, I got 3 solutions for any problem. But most of what we need is to be seen, heard, and valued without someone fixing us.
Right.
And I think about you and your activism and how you hold history. And just as Sean, as you were saying about holding history that's come before you, and I often think about, we were talking about this backstage, that there's so much talk about generational trauma and generational grief, and it's almost like, okay, and what? I'm holding it. And I always say, hold it, be aware of it, but just know it'll get passed down until someone's willing to feel it. And you can be mindful enough to be the person to feel it, and then your work is so powerful because it all lands in our body.
Yeah.
It all lands in our body too.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd love to ask you a question, Mary. Your new book, Uneasy Silence, you explore how silence can hold both pain and possibility. Tell us what you mean by that.
Well, growing up, I think I spent most of my life being silent and not necessarily understanding. I would do things that you might say, oh, that's an activist, but I didn't think I was. And then, once I became HIV positive and decided to be public, it was, it was a way of saying, let me speak. Let me speak for you. These are hard times. I mean, if anyone can remember those times in the 80s and the 90s, it was really, really hard. And I was dying. And so for me, it was important to be there for other people. Not just for me.
Right.
But to be there for others, because there's so many people that couldn't speak. There were women in those days, and I know that this will sound like amazing, but when they were diagnosed HIV positive, their children were taken away from them. And, so we were finding lawyers to help people. You can't even imagine those kinds of times. I was very careful about my children with their faces because I didn't want that to happen to me. And so facing stigma, facing that anger, facing people that are just prejudiced, you just have to say, I'm going to stand up and tell the truth. And I think that's another piece of what we need to do, is to be telling not only our truth, but helping others tell their truth.
Hey, I'm not going to lie, that deserves a clap.
And just to also think about, you spoke up in a time where AIDS was not seen as something that a white, straight Republican woman would get. And you took that moment and didn't talk about yourself, but everyone else who was unseen at the Republican convention of all places. So amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Historical.
And if you haven't heard or watched her her speech from 1992, A Whisper of AIDS, you absolutely must. It is moving. It's actually been said to be one of the top 40 or most influential speeches of our time. So it's really
On YouTube, you can
and
find it.
powerful.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Yeah.
Or you can read my book.
David, I would love to ask you a question. You teach that grief is not something that we get over, but something that we carry differently. How does mindfulness help someone stay with the pain of grief, but not become overwhelmed by it?
Well, I think the first thing about that is it's easy to treat grief and loss as like a cold or a flu that we have to get over it until you're in grief and it happens to you. And so many well-meaning friends and family members try to get us to get over it. And we have to learn to live with it and walk with it. And it is overwhelming. And it is extremely painful. And I think we have to know with those we care about when they're in grief to not say when, how, let's get you over it, but to still say, I don't know what this is like for you. And I know and I see from your face, from what you're saying, it's overwhelming. And I'm going to be next to you, and I'm going to walk with you, and I'm going to be here. And the gift of presence is everything. And it's interesting, you mentioned my website, grief.com. The most, like I look at the analytics, the most visited page is the best and worst things to say to people in grief.
Yeah.
Because we're a grief illiterate society.
Yes.
No one teaches us
Right.
what to say.
Right.
Can I tell a story about you?
Sure.
Is that all right?
Yes, please.
So when I got stuck in Los Angeles during COVID, I was feeling not well, and yet I was here, and my son was having a baby, well, his wife was having a baby, and I was going to become a grandmother, which I never thought that would happen, but I was feeling so not well and down. And I met David, and David came to talk to me, and I think I said to him something like, will you help me die because now it's time? And he looked at me and said, I don't know.
I've been around dying people. You're not dying.
And he said, I said, well, I don't know, I'm so low, and he said, it's not that, you're grieving. And if you can look at it like you're grieving, then that's something you can work with. And it did change my life.
And it's not surprising when we look at those moments like you becoming a grandmother and never thinking that was going to happen. Fear doesn't stop death, fear stops life. And sometimes those moments really cocoon us also and make us turtle up.
And about when someone passes away, and you say that the grieving, tell them what you say about the grieving is as much love as you have for them.
Yeah, I always tell people, they're like, I'm in so much pain, and I'll go, if you have a little love for the person, you're going to have a little grief. If you have a lot of love, you're going to have a lot of grief. It's in proportion. Grief around a loved one dying is ultimately the love continuing on.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
I want to share that I lost my husband a couple of years ago, and I always said that his death was like a bomb, but what exploded was beauty. Because I had so intentionally created community. So to loop back this mindfulness and community piece, my whole spiel is collective care, yada, blah, 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 blah. But I would never been the recipient of that care. And to even have, the father of my two children pass away, and immediately beauty blossomed all around us. The house.
Tell us his first name.
Paul.
Paul, thank you.
And the house was filled with flowers and food and people who knew how to hold space for us where we were at, who weren't projecting their feelings of grief onto us. And, my kids, they were in therapy, grief group, and I remember talking to my son's therapist, and the therapist said, even though losing a parent is one of the biggest traumas you can experience, I don't think your child is traumatized because the care and the holding. And people would say to me after he died, "You've been so strong." I said, "I have not been strong because I haven't had to be strong. I am held every day in community that I consciously have been cultivating for decades." And my kids got to see what community care does, because when something that big happens to us, we need something bigger than us to hold us. And for me, that's community.
And I asked his name just because so many times we can talk about someone as a loss. And it's like, they're not a loss. It's this amazing person, Paul, who walked this earth. And I always want to hear about them. And people love telling stories. We think, don't mention Paul. I bet you
talk about him all
love to
the
talk
time.
about Paul.
All the time.
Love that.
Hala, you've said that mindfulness is not just self-care, so not just about the person, but it's a justice practice. You know, how does mindfulness really help us show up more fully and more fairly in our relationships and our communities? And maybe you could tell us what you mean by mindfulness as a justice practice.
Yeah. You know, I think about how systems of supremacy, white supremacy, male supremacy, able-bodied supremacy, all that, they impact all of us, even those who look to benefit from those systems. And I always say to folks, if you're benefiting on the backs of others, that's harming you. If you're dehumanizing others, you have to dehumanize yourself in order to do that.
Right.
So when we understand that injustice impacts all of us in different ways. And so for folks, especially white folks or people who are centered in dominant culture, I believe when they develop a real mindfulness practice, our hearts break because we feel connected to all beings. And you know, I'm living here in LA, and I've seen these practices used in the opposite. I'm just going to meditate my way to bliss and not think about justice or my privilege.
Right.
And on the other, folks who might have internalized a sense of being less than, mindfulness helps us reclaim our power. But ultimately, mindfulness lets us see our interdependence. We all need to figure out how to get free together. And if we don't do this work together, we're never going to get free. And we are seeing that right now. And just to loop back to your first question about why mindfulness now.
Damn, you are spitting right now. You are talking that talk.
When we look at what's happening, I think a lot about how fascism is flourishing in our country. And I think, I don't understand, like our party, we were like the liberation, let's get free, the yummy social justice party, but not everybody wants to be in our party. But then I really look at what are the ways that even inside of our movements for justice, have we replicated domination, hierarchy, shaming, policing one another? And so the more that we use mindfulness in a really radical way, the more that we're going to find collective liberation together.
Yes.
And
I don't even know what to say.
and
actually.
Damn,
standing
I gotta clap that up. Too.
And Hala, standing up for what you believe is right, because silence is complicity. And when we don't speak out, that's when trouble happens.
Yeah.
John Lewis, right? Good trouble.
Yeah, good trouble. Sean, you've talked about your mindfulness practice and how it's helped with your creativity as an artist, as a musician. But I know you're also a parent, a little boy.
Right.
How does mindfulness help you as a parent?
It helps me, well, obviously just being so aware and being so present is just one of my favorite things to be with him, because I get to see the world through his eyes. And that's helped me rediscover life again. It's made me appreciate all of the simple things, whether it's like going on a walk and seeing the flower bloom. You see it bloom differently when you see your son, like, whoa, So that's one of the ways that mindfulness has affected me as a father, and it also has been a motivating factor to be more mindful in myself, because I feel like the more mindful I am, the more receptive I am, the more connected I am, and the more better use I could be to just my community, my family, my society, whatever it is I'm doing. And I also feel like we're all walking magnets. So it's like the more mindful you are, you're getting clarity on what it is you want to see more of in your life. So to me, that's what it has really helped. And like how I stay mindful is like, you know, through just balancing opportunities and work life and taking time to prioritize myself when I can. You know what I'm saying? Definitely have to have some morning time. May run 15 minutes late to 30 minutes late sometimes because, you know, I got to get my meditation in. I got to journal if I really feel it's that important. But I do believe that, you know, you have to take care of yourself first and foremost.
Sure.
And everything else is just going to be done way better, you know?
I love what you said about being able to be present to seeing the world through your son's eyes when you're more mindful. And I feel like that's actually true for so many of us in our relationships. When we are more mindful, we're able to see things from a different perspective.
Yeah, and in a relationship too, that's really
Exactly.
important. Like seeing things from someone else's perspective is one of the hardest things to do in the heat of the moment, in the heat of
Sure.
having two opposing ideas, or, you know, that is when your practices and mindfulness and the evolution of yourself really come into play, is in the heats of the moment, you know. And that's a beautiful thing when you could put yourself in someone's shoes
Right.
and at the same time still respect yourself. You know, it's a very thin line, and to be able to walk that line it takes a lot of evolution. It takes a lot of understanding. It takes mindfulness,
Courage.
courage.
Takes
Absolutely,
courage.
it does take courage. You know, because we kind of tend to downplay ourselves and think that at least, you know, I've been in that position where, you know, you don't want to speak up, you don't want to look a certain way, you don't want to do this, but you have to keep it real with yourself, especially when your heart's in the right place. You know, I think you really don't have anything to worry about.
Right.
And I love what you said about the seeing it through the eyes of the other, because we live in a world now that's all about reacting. And how can we respond? And not only just respond, but then get curious. Like, I know we disagree, but I'm so curious about your position on it. If we do disagree, versus me, you're wrong. Let me be curious.
And I think the thing I'm so interested in is like, can we disagree and stick together? Can we be in
Absolutely.
conflict and still be connected? And this idea that, you know, if I don't agree with you, then we have to separate. And oftentimes I ask myself in relationships, do I want to be right or do I want to stay connected?
Right.
Now, we don't want to sacrifice our truth for connection, but both can be there. We can disagree and stay connected inside of that. And I feel like that's what you're naming.
Yeah, and I think that, like, it's yeah, you know, a lot of people do things for a reaction and for just to, you know, that's one of the parts of like social media has been very like get a reaction, retweets, viral. You know, like even if it's like something you may not agree with, it's like, oh, you know, I think we've gotten addicted to the dopamine hits so much and the like the conditional hits that it's like it's like a drug. You get addicted to it, and it's like the important thing about being mindful and not relying on those things. It's like you are the drug. You're like high off of life yourself, as opposed to like high off of something, or, you know, high off another drug. It's like you really are experiencing life to the fullest, because there is so much to experience instead of being caught up in the things that are very, very conditional. You know what I mean?
And I want to add to that too, this idea that conflict, instead of something to be avoided, conflict is generative. That conflict, I heard this beautiful quote that conflict is the relationship wanting to grow. And so if we can move towards conflict together, but you need mindfulness to be able to tolerate the discomfort of the conflict, then it can be really generative.
And it's
I like that.
Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, you may not remember a time. There was a time in politics years and years and years ago when I was in politics, where Republicans and Democrats, they may not have agreed, but they talked about it, and then they may fight about it, or they may say this, that, the other thing, but then they'd go out to dinner.
Not anymore.
Or they'd go out to, no, I know, and that's what I'm trying to say, is that looking at that history is something that I think can inspire us and can show us that it can happen, because we have done it. We have done it.
And just to bring this back to the mental health world, when people would see a mental health clinician, they would ask things of the counselor or the therapist. Where did you go to school? Or do you have experience with relationships or with a loss or with job issues? The number one thing people ask a clinician now, who did you vote for? Who did you vote for? We want the sameness, an echo chamber. And like you said, there's no growth there.
That's right.
Say I voted for me.
I'll vote for you.
Voted for myself.
Yeah, I vote for you.
Oh, thank you.
So I'd like to ask each of you to share one personal mindfulness practice that you use in your life that maybe someone in the audience could try today. Something that's really helped you as far as your mindful practice. And
Go that way.
Go that way? Okay. Sean, I'm going to start with you.
One of the things that I do is I like to get clear. I like to think that like God is like say the universe and God or whatever you associate with is like all giving. But just like any relationship, you have to have a communication. So to me, I feel like communicating in any relationship is the way for it to progress. I feel like communication is the bridge to salvation that God is holding our hands to walk across, you know? So for me, I like to get clear, and that's like journaling and then meditating on it, you know what I'm saying? So I like to write down my, sometimes it's a gratitude journal, sometimes it's how I'm feeling. It's usually gratitude, meaning like I am thankful, I'm grateful, I am happy. I'm happy I get to speak at the Milken Institute today and be on this conference. I'm happy that I get to record a new song that I've been thinking of. You know, whatever it is, I'm happy I get to be an author, a best-selling author. You know, whatever it is that I like to just live on that vibration. And then I say it out loud because I want God to hear me. And, you know, I feel like when you meditate, you are sending a signal out. You know, you're magnetizing this life to you, and you're clearing your energy. You know what I'm saying? You're clearing your mind of all the gunk and things. So for me, it has been transformative. I think people have the wrong idea about meditation. A lot of people are always like, well, I can't clear my mind. Like, you know, my mind races. But that's the point, is to bring it back to a thought. Your mind, you're not a robot. You're not like a machine that you could just shut your brain off. That's not how it works. It's kind of more so just you keep practicing on bringing it back to the central thought, or to, if you're doing a guided meditation, you know, you find ways that work for you. You could do a walking meditation too. You can do, there's all sorts of different meditations and guided meditations you could do, but it is transformative, you know. And I remember that one of my lives, I always try and pay attention to the omens, pay attention to the signs. And I remember one time I had a chance that I got to talk to Kobe Bryant, and he was talking about how he meditates. And it literally, he was explaining what it did for him, and it was just great confirmation of like, oh man, that's exactly how I feel. That's exactly how I do it. And I think that is like, getting clear like that is one of the best things you could do. And some days, I'd like to do it first thing in the morning to start my day. Sometimes I can't. Sometimes my son will wake me up before, and I have to do it later on. But I always try and like get it in when I can.
Do you have a favorite type of meditation that you like to do?
I personally like guided meditations, but I've gotten to the point where I've been doing it for years and years now that I can kind of just do my own process and go somewhere. Like I go to somewhere in nature, fill my body up with like light and connect with the center of the earth, and it comes back up, and then I'm protected by like the power. So it's like I'm the power. I got the power of like the whole universe, and then I have the love and support of the whole universe, and then I also have the forgiveness of the universe, and like all those three things, and connect with my higher self, because our bodies really mirror the universe. They really mirror creation. If you look even deeper, it's like all our cells are like all the stars in the sky. It's like an atom, you know, it's like planets, and we're full of billions of it. You know, have you ever seen those like metaphors where it's like a universe, but then it's a marble, and then it's like a this, and then it's in someone's lock? I think they did that at the end of Men in Black movie. But point being is that it's all like a metaphor, you know what I'm saying? Meaning that we're all just like have that whole, I feel like we all really do have the power of like the universe, the power to create our own destinies or realities. It's just about believing that and accepting it and walking across that faith, that faith, the bridge of faith, you know?
Thank you. Hala, what's a mindful practice that you have?
I love that. Mine is way less profound.
Yeah. I don't know if that's profound, but it's just
beautiful. Grounding practices.
Okay.
So I'm using it right now, right? I'm on this stage. I'm with these amazing people. I have this fraud that's like, how did I get on this stage? I think this is a mistake. Don't say anything dumb, because then everybody will know. So I notice that, right? I include it, right? And then I feel my feet on the ground. And I breathe. And I'm like, you can be by my side, right? I feel my heart racing a little bit. Don't say anything dumb, right? I'm going to include that. And then I ground. So I work with a lot of folks that work in really high stress situations, dealing with trauma all day. And I talk about micro self-care. Maybe you can't take a pause between trauma patients, or maybe you're dealing with people in crisis. Find something in your body that lets you tolerate whatever else might be emerging, so you can include it. There's a beautiful Buddhist meditation when you sit and meditate and thoughts come, feelings come, and then you say to yourself, and this too I shall include. Usually our suffering comes because we refuse to feel something, or we wish something didn't happen, just like you talked about grief. When we can include it, sometimes we then don't have to be dysregulated by it. So I'm able to sit up here feeling my fabulousness, feeling the fraud, feeling my heart rate go up, feeling my grounding, but ultimately letting my authenticity, I think, win out, because I'm not afraid of all that other stuff. So for me, I feel like I use that practice throughout the day of just checking in with my body and checking in with, do I have something anchoring me so that I'm okay with whatever is? So whether I'm in the dentist chair or I'm in a beautiful moment seeing the trees, right? We're always being asked to carry different loads. Grounding practices are my go-to, because to me, the earth, that's my religion. The earth is this thing that's bigger than me and my community that can hold me in whatever there is. And so even folks right now, if you just feel your feet or foot on the floor or the parts of your body in the chair, the thing I love about this is you can use it any time and you can regulate. I'm just seeing deep breaths happen, right? Just feel your butt in the chair, your back against the chair. And all of a sudden, for some of us, things settle. Yeah, so grounding is my go-to.
That's pretty profound, I'm not going to lie.
God, grounding, you know.
I love that. That's
Beautiful.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. David.
I'm going to try to continue from there. So I wrote about the idea of finding meaning, the 6th stage of grief. And Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who wrote the 5 stages, was my teacher and co-author. And I always tell people the stages aren't linear. There's no one right way to do grief. And we're really talking about post-traumatic growth. We all hear about post-traumatic stress, but post-traumatic growth occurs more. And so when I think about a technique that helps me...
Wait. You got to break that down a little bit. Post-traumatic growth.
Yeah.
We don't just go through it, we grow through it. Our grief, our trauma doesn't always get smaller. We have to become bigger.
I know, I need a notebook. They're dropping truth like left and right. I can't even keep up. Okay.
My bad, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just...
All right.
I'm glad
all
I
right.
did, though.
Anytime.
Yeah.
So when we think about the things that have happened, all grief does not have trauma, but all trauma has grief. And I came to this world not as someone who studied it. I had a mother who was dying when I was 13. I had a dysfunctional family. My father had a horrible addiction. My mother had mental health issues. I was sexually abused by another family member. And then when she was dying, when I was 13, across the street from the hospital where she was, a shooting began. And it turned out to be one of the first mass shootings in the US. So I had all this grief and trauma, and then spent decades trying to find my own healing and helping others, and was able to write with Kubler-Ross and Louise Hay and other people and do my own books. And after all of that, 8 years ago, my younger son David died. So I know this work personally and professionally. So when I think about like grounding techniques and mindfulness, one of the things that I always like to introduce to people is name 5 things in the room. Many of you have heard this, name 5 things in the room. For me, it would be this bottle, these amazing people on this panel, that odd-looking speaker, the lights up there, the green faux carpet, easy to find 5 things. But then I also say, name 5 things that aren't in the room now. Sexual abuser isn't in the room. My mother's not dying in the room. My son is not dying in the room. And to think about what's not happening now, because we get stuck in that trauma, in that grief of the past. So I try to bring us into this moment. But when I bring us into this moment, I say, don't leave the good behind. Wait a minute. Let me bring my son into this moment. Let me bring my parents into this moment. Let me bring that little child who was so lost and didn't think he was going to survive into this moment with me. And that really grounds me and makes me feel so whole and mindful. And I love the idea of the imposter and the imperfection and all that. There's a cancer center that I work with in the area here. And there's one woman who was in remission around cancer. And she told me in one of our sessions, every morning she gets up and she watches the sunrise. And she just says, the awe of it, I can't believe I didn't see the sunrise. 6 months later, I run into her in Target. And we're in Target and I said, how are the sunrises? And she goes, you seen one, you seen them all. And I'm like, wait, what about the awe? And she said, I find the awe now when I burn the scrambled eggs for my kids. I find the awe when I'm behind in my laundry. I find the awe when I'm struggling with a project at work. It doesn't just, there's something about delighting in the imperfections of this world. We get to be here in such an imperfect world, and all of us have an expiration date. And when I think about, my gosh, someday we're going to die, the studies have shown the death rate's 100%. When I think of all that, I also think about the reality of okay, let me not shy away from life, but let me take this moment in more. And that's my mindfulness. Ooh.
Embracing the imperfections, in that case, life is always great then. If you can make those into pleasurable, positive moments for you, enjoyable even, then you're gonna be great.
And easier said than done.
Easier said than done,
But sometimes I try to catch myself going, I'm so pissed. Ooh, have fun with it. If you're in it, just be in it. Okay,
Yeah.
Part of the human experience is I'm really pissed off. All right. And you kind of let that be.
Yeah,
Not fight it, not argue with reality. Don't argue with your emotions. They get to be.
And not letting it take you down. I think that's one
Not
of the
let it
biggest
take you
things.
down. Amen.
Not letting it drag you down.
Amen.
Or letting it linger. You feel it, you go through it.
Mm-hmm. And when we talk about the trauma, the wounds we've all had, people go, they keep coming up. And I go, don't then beat yourself up like, why does my abandonment come up? What's wrong with me? No. Think about it. It's an old friend knocking at the door, asking for healing. And when you say don't go down with it, it's that sense of this may come up. I may not have control of stuff coming up, but let me not linger too long. Let me not go down, as you say.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to add too is I think about that trauma is a rupture, right? A rupture with our reality. And what I've seen with my clients is that the folks that have the hardest time recovering is because they want to be who they were before the trauma.
Right.
But when we can let trauma transform us, then that's that post-traumatic growth. I don't know about you all, but most of us, the thing that made us who we are was traumatic.
Yes.
Right.
You wouldn't have signed up for that.
Even birth, right?
Birth is traumatic, but you bond through it, right? So I always say trauma survivors are superheroes, and trauma doesn't always break us. But I think sometimes when we want to stop the flow of the change that might occur, then we stop the flow of our healing. So that's the accepting the imperfection as the doorway towards transformation and growth.
Thank you. Mary.
Dropping the bars up here, boy.
You're kidding. Okay. Okay. How do I do mindfulness on a daily
Yes.
basis?
What's a mindful practice that you use?
Well, each one of these people, I do all of that, and I don't know that I'm doing it. And I don't know how to say that I don't know that I'm doing it, but except to say that.
Right.
But I'm at a place in my life where this comes to me in a different way. And I don't know whether it's getting older or accepting getting older or being grateful for being older. I'm not sure if I'm grateful for being older. I mean, I'm grateful. But I see incredible joy in my life. And I see my grandchildren playing and laughing and doing. And I said, that is to me what makes my day different and special in so many ways. And then also I have to say that for me, I spend a lot of time, I did a big search a while to, spirituality and all of these things. But I found that it's about everything that you all have said that we do for ourselves. And it just now happens. Maybe because I was doing it and I didn't know I was doing it. Maybe that's okay. And now I'm living it and I'm doing it and okay, I'm okay.
Do you know what I think about you when I think about that? And it's true about every one of us. Everyone up here, and you actually too, and those watching, we're evidence that life continues through the horrible things. You have been through, oh my gosh, near death and so many tragedies, and just, living in a world that you were the anti-everything for what they stood for. And here you are as evidence to life existing. And we all need that.
Truly, that's well said.
I do. I love him.
I love you too, Mary Fisher.
I mean, it's like, how do you don't plan for that kind of thing.
Right.
But when it comes into your life, I'm the most grateful for the new people in my life in Los Angeles that I've found and that I've learned to love and to be with and to listen to. And I'm quiet. And writing a book. That's it. And
Uneasy Silence, signed copies in the bookstore and available at a fine bookstore
that's
next
true.
to you.
But that also helps me, the writing, but the art is where I go deep. And I go to maybe high. I don't know. I get
Can you
high.
just show a picture of the art? Like, this book is her heart and art. I love that. Amazing that she put art into it too. That credible?
I love it.
Thank you.
Your
I mean,
heart and art.
there's one for every chapter.
That's amazing.
Oh, amazing.
So I have one really fun question I want to ask you because we're running out of time. If you could go back and whisper one mindful truth to your younger self, what would you say? Mary, we'll start with you.
Okay. I would say two things. Love yourself and tell the truth.
David?
I know now that whatever we're feeling now, we have the habit of projecting it on the rest of our lives. I feel bad, I'm going to be. And I remember when I was so young, I felt damaged and broken. And I would tell that young self, no feeling is final. No feeling is final. Feelings will always change.
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought about my adolescent self who felt like such an outsider and like everybody else had their shit together except for me. And I would go back and be like, everybody's pretending. You're not the only one.
Yeah,
That's a
I
good
like
one.
that. That's good.
Absolutely true.
That's good.
I relate to everyone's answer. I mean, I would tell myself all those things too, but I think the main thing I would say is just don't worry so much. Don't waste so much time worrying. You know, it's gonna be fine no matter what. I think I used to have the fear of like things not working out, right? Or even when things did work out, of things not working out and me going back to where I started. But I had to realize that, man, I was happy. I was fine then too. Honestly, I was still have great days. I was still happy with no money or with no this or growing up in the house I grew up in. Like, you know, you don't have to waste time worrying about anything. You know, just take that time and just be in the moment more. That's what I would say to myself. And watch more anime. I used to love anime so much growing up, like Dragon Ball Z and all these amazing anime, and I've been getting back into it more. And I'm just so grateful that I've listened to myself. It has brought back so much joy watching anime.
Your
once
face
in
is
a while.
lighting up just talking.
Yeah, it's like my favorite. I'm watching One Piece right now.
Amazing.
I have a dear friend who says, when stuff is happening, just like what you're talking about, she always says, what if it all works out?
Yeah, what's the best that could happen? You know what I mean?
What if it all works out?
Instead of what's the worst that could happen, for sure.
We're so
right.
focused
What
on
if
the
it all works
negative,
out?
focusing on the positive.
And also everything in between, like when I'm anxious, either everyone's going to die or everything's going to be perfect. But there's all this bad stuff I could cope with. And so I just imagine all the bad stuff that I could totally crush, right? Because we're super capable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you? What would you
Yeah,
say?
I was just going to say.
I want to
Yeah.
hear from you.
I would like to know. You're a very profound
What would
person
I
too.
say? I would say choose love.
Wow.
Always.
Yes.
Choose love. Wow.
Every
Ooh, yes.
in every
Yes.
situation, choose love. What would love have you do? That's how I live my life, for sure. Thank you for asking me that question.
Yeah.
We still have a little time. Is there anything else that you would love to tell everybody about that you're doing, or something that's just really important to you right now? No?
I would love to just say that, you know, if you're dealing with grief, the death of a loved one, you don't have to do it alone. I have online grief groups, 26 that are around the world now. No one's turned away for a lack of funds. It's called Tender Hearts. Some of you have brochures about it. And we have a grief educator program for therapists and coaches and people who turn their pain into purpose, that you don't have to do these hard things alone. And I think so many of us have just so many resources up here, and to inspire people to not feel like you're different, you are alone.
I would say that it's been a pleasure being up here.
Yeah.
And that my book, it is a good gift for anyone you love. It's not just my ideals though. It's like a culmination of my whole family's recipes for the way they were able to live their life, and it's one of my greatest accomplishments that I've been able to do, and I'm just excited for it to outlast me in this lifetime, and for my sons and sons or daughters or whoever, family, ancestors, future ancestors to just see at this point in time. So yeah, and yeah, I'm having a good time in life, so I'm just appreciative to be.
Show us the book.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
I want to point out something. You said you wish you could go back and ask your ancestors questions.
Yep.
Your son will not have to.
Yeah.
Your book will let your ancestors know about you.
Thank you. Wow, that's deep.
Right.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you all for being here and for your honesty and sharing your hearts. I hope that all of you will leave with some medicine today of mindfulness. Thank you so much.